A very good afternoon and welcome to this week's edition of the Business News Summary on Independent Television Abuja. I am Nkiru Omuli. We will start off with President Muhammadu Buhari's approval of an amendment to the excise duty rate for alcoholic beverages and tobacco with effect from Monday, the 4th of June 2018. The President has also granted a grace period of 90 days to all manufacturers before the commencement of the new excise duty regime. The Minister of Finance, Mrs. Kemi Adelson, who made this known in Abuja, said the new excise duty rates were spread over a 3-year period from 2018 to 2020 in order to moderate the impact of prices of the product. The minister said the new excise duty regime followed all-inclusive stakeholders' engagement by the Tariff Technical Committee of the Federal Ministry of Finance with key industry stakeholders. According to her, the upward review of the excise duty rates for alcoholic beverages and tobacco was to achieve a dual benefit of raising the government's fiscal revenues and reducing health hazards associated with tobacco-related diseases and alcohol abuse. It will be recalled that the ECOWAS Council of Ministers had at its 62nd and 79th ordinary sessions in Abuja in May of 2009 and December 2017, issued directives on the harmonization of ECOWAS member states' legislations on excise duty. Meanwhile, Finance Minister Kemi Adelson has called for effective collaboration between members of boards and managers of the economy by effective formation and execution of policies. Adelson said this in Abuja while inaugurating the board of 4 parastatals as constituted by President Muhammadu Buhari. Finance correspondent Gabriel Kumar reports the minister as charging the new board members to take pragmatic steps to deliver on the mandate and confidence reposed on them.
And so it's on this note, and I think I should stand at this point, that I offer you my support and I hereby inaugurate the governing boards of NICOM, of NEXIM, of the Nigerian Customs Service and the Agricultural Credit Guarantee Scheme Fund, and I wish you all a successful tenure.
That was the inauguration of the reconstituted boards of National Insurance Commission, NICOM, Nigeria Customs Service, Nigeria Import-Export Bank, NEXIM, and Agricultural Credit and Guarantee Scheme. President Muhammadu Buhari had reconstituted the boards to, among other things, assist in the diversification and economic growth plan of the current administration, which is interwoven around the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan, ERGP. Minister of Finance Kemi Adelson urged the newly constituted board members to set aside celebration, roll their sleeves, and get to work by contributing their quota through good policy formation to sustain the economic growth witnessed after the recession the country was plunged into.
Pursuant to the efforts aimed at revamping our economy, federal government launched the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan with its vision to restore economic growth and to create a globally competitive economy. And it's pertinent to state that the mandates of NICOM, NEXIM and Customs Service revolve around the 5 pillars of the ERGP and the various executive orders. I urge you to take pragmatic steps to reposition the respective institutions entrusted to you and drive enhanced performance through efficient management of accrued resources for national development.
Represented by the Director of Finance in the Ministry, Olubunmi Sheyimbola, the Permanent Secretary, Issa Duse, expressed optimism that newly inaugurated boards will help the government in achieving its diversification and growth agenda.
It is expected that with the governing boards and the management in place, our 4 agencies are poised and more than ever committed to the achievement of the key economic drivers of government. This is to enable the present government achieve its economic diversification and growth agenda. This is also to move us away from the reliance on crude oil with emphasis on non-oil exports and revenue. In order to restore economic stability and build a globally competitive economy, therefore, and as well increase revenue, these boards, I believe, will do everything to enable the achievement.
The Minister of Finance had earlier expressed confidence in the leadership of the Nigerian Customs Service.
Nigeria's external reserves is steadily rising to the $60 billion mark, reaching $46 billion on Friday. According to figures from the Central Bank of Nigeria, weekend, the reserves grew by $3.2 billion from February and March. Let's join Juliet Nangiwa for more.
Nigeria's external reserve are steadily heading towards the $50 billion mark, betting at $46 billion at the close of business on Friday. Figures obtained from the Central Bank of Nigeria (CBN) at the weekend says the reserve grew by $3.2 billion between February and March 2018. The reserves at the beginning of 2018 stood at $39.3 billion, then rose to $42.8 billion in February before hitting the new height of $46 billion. Confirming the figures, the CBN Acting Director, Corporate Communication Department, Isaac Okorafor, attributed the continued accretion to the country's reserve to the bank's efforts at vigorously discouraging unnecessary importation and reduce the nation's import bill, inflow from oil and non-oil exports, as well as the huge inflows through the investors and exporters window of the foreign exchange markets, which he said had attracted over $33 billion since April 2017, when it was created. At the close of commodities trading on Fridays, Brent crude sold at $65.49 per barrel, up by 2.54%. According to him, the bank's intervention in the foreign exchange window had also helped to moderate the pressure on the forex reserve by sustaining liquidity in the market and boosting production and trade. A Central Bank of Nigeria stress test has shown that only large banks will stay above the regulator capital adequacy ratio threshold if the non-performing loans level of the deposit money banks should rise by 50%. The results of the stress test were continued in the CBN latest financial stability report posted in its website. According to the report, the end June 2017 banking industry stress test, which covered 20 commercial and 4 merchant banks, was conducted to evaluate the resilience of the banks to credit, liquidity, interest rate, and contagion risk. The banking industry was categorized into large banks, those with assets up to 1 trillion or above, medium banks, those with assets more than 500 billion but less than 1 trillion, and small banks, those with assets up to 500 billion or below.
President Muhammadu Buhari says the administration is focusing on fulfilling its campaign promises and key goals in order to make life better for citizens of the country. He said that this Tuesday in Abuja at the launch of Focus Labs for Nigeria's Economic Recovery and Growth Plan. RTV State House correspondent Ikharata reports President Muhammadu Buhari as saying that Nigeria's Focus Labs are designed to accelerate development and investment.
President Muhammadu Buhari, who expressed delight at the successes recorded by Nigeria globally on the ease of doing business, reiterated his administration's commitment to build on that. He added that government is working hard to improve on existing infrastructure across the country. According to the president, Focus Lab have been very successful elsewhere, and Nigeria's case cannot be an exception. He said they will help government realize its objective of fast-tracking the economy as it's built on successes already recorded.
Focus labs have been successfully used in other countries. The labs in Nigeria are designed as closed-door investment platforms to identify and accelerate high-impact projects with significant impact on GDP and job creation.
The president, who recognized the successes the country has recorded in the agriculture sector, said the central bank's Anchor Borrowers Program has been expanded to boost local production.
Our local food production, particularly rice, has witnessed a remarkable growth and has saved the nation millions of dollars of foreign exchange.
The president added that government must continue to work hard to attract both local and foreign investors. He said the Focus Lab will afford the private sector access to public outfit. He commended the Ministry of Budget and National Planning for doing a good job, as he expressed optimism that the labs will bring about the needed successes and development as they open up new investments across the country. Earlier in his remark, the Minister of Budget and National Planning, Udoma, thanked the President for personally launching the Focus Labs. He noted that when the Buhari-led administration came on board, it had to act decisively to save the nation's economy from total collapse.
The vision of the NNPC is of a Nigeria that is transformed from a consuming nation to a producing nation.
The House of Representatives Tuesday said it will investigate the alleged withdrawal of 10 billion naira from the Insured Persons Fund of the National Health Insurance Scheme. The House arrived at the decision in a motion moved by Mr. Chile Okafor. He said the House Committee had, on an oversight function, discovered that the sum of 10 billion naira was withdrawn from the Insured Persons Fund account without due process. He said the Executive Secretary disclosed that the withdrawal was authorized by the Minister of Finance.
One begins to wonder whether we use TSA to accumulate for easy cutaway of such funds. No matter how powerful a minister is, you have no capacity under the law whatsoever to go and withdraw money without the agency requesting for it. And let us be sure that after this, and that is why we have to investigate it, that after this kind of cascading, this kind of arbitrary action that is taking place in this government, it has to be put to a stop.
And the Nigerian Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative, NETI, said even though financial accountability has improved, the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation still has not accounted for billions of dollars of missing reserves. For details of this and more, let's join Catherine Eyamese.
The Nigeria Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative, an agency tasked with cleaning up the country's oil industry, has said even though financial accountability has improved, the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation still has not explained billions of dollars of missing revenue. The executive secretary of the agency, Waziri Adio, said in an interview that while energy producers had cooperated and complied with requirements to publish payments, the NNPC is yet to do so. He said that the state oil company had not explained what he did with at least $22.7 billion earned from the sale of oil licenses and dividends from its stake in Nigeria Long Limited over a 15-year period. The NNPC said in the past it had the authority of the government for its actions. PricewaterhouseCoopers, PwC, Nigeria said that Nigeria's real gross domestic product, GDP, will grow at 2.0% year-on-year in 2018, propelled by oil production increase and government spending. This includes slow progress with the power sector reforms, absence of full deregulation of the downstream petroleum sector, and the multiplicity of exchange rates which constrains investment and makes the economy vulnerable to shocks in the oil sector. PwC also stated that it is equally impressed by the growth rate recorded in the non-oil sector in 2017. According to latest data released by the National Bureau of Statistics (NBS), Nigeria earned 3.738 trillion naira from the export of crude oil and petroleum products in 3 months from October to December 2017. The NBS, in its foreign trade statistics for the fourth quarter of 2017, stated that petroleum product export accounted for 95.58% of Nigeria's total export export in the period under review. The NBS stated that the value of the export trade continues its growth trend, totaling 3.9 naira in the fourth quarter of 2017, representing an increase of 9.4% over the value of 3.576 trillion naira recorded in the preceding quarter, and an increase of 31.3% over the value of 2.979 trillion naira recorded in the fourth quarter of 2016.
And rather worrisome, the Senate has said it is uncertain when the 2018 appropriation bill will be passed by the National Assembly. Let's join Catherine Ayamese for more on business news.
The Senate says it is uncertain when the 2018 appropriation bill will be passed by the National Assembly. The legislature and the executive has been passing the buck on which arm of government is responsible for the delayed passage of the budget, which the President Muhammadu Buhari laid before a joint session of the National Assembly on November 7, 2017. The chairman, Senate Committee on Media and Public Affairs, Senator Aliyu Sabi Abdullahi, while briefing journalists in Abuja on Tuesday, stated that he could not ascertain when the budgetary process would end. Sabi Abdullahi also stated that he could not ascertain the level of response by the federal government ministries, departments and agencies whose heads were accused of failing to turn up for budget defense session being held by relevant legislative committees. The Senate had on February 14, 2018, asked 63 agencies and parastatals under the federal government to submit details of their proposed 2018 budget within 1 week or risk sanctions. The Minister of Power, Works and Housing, Babatunde Fashola, says the federal government is currently developing a solar energy city. Fashola, who did not give details on how the government was going about the initiative, however, stated that the solar energy city was being developed in Jigawa State. The minister made the announcement in Abuja while inaugurating the 12-member governing council of the Federal School of Survey, Oyo State. He told members of the governing council that President Muhammadu Buhari had earlier in the year stated that his government would rebuild the country's infrastructure, adding that it was the duty of surveyors to help actualize the target. The International Monetary Fund, IMF, says the excise duty being charged by the federal government on tobacco and alcohol are very low. The IMF said this in its 2017 mission report Tuesday in Abuja. It stated that there was a need for Nigeria to raise the excise duty on a stick of cigarettes to 5 naira as a fail-proof revenue rising strategy. This is 5 times higher than the 1 naira excise duty approval given by President Muhammadu Buhari, which was announced on Sunday by the Minister of Finance, Mrs. Kemi Adeosun. It also stated in the report that tobacco prices should be adjusted upwards in conformity with the Global Tobacco Convention goals of achieving an excise burden of 64% of the retail price by pack of 20 cigarettes, while also recommending that excise duties should be converted from ad valorem to specific rates to reflect the external cost of consumption and production. For alcoholic beverages, the fund said the current rate of 20% was low. This, according to the IMF, does not account for the external cost that abusive drinkers impose on other people.
Following dissatisfaction by some online customers, the federal government says it is developing regulatory framework which will provide sanctions for erring e-commerce traders and also protect consumers of the market. The Director General Consumer Protection Council, Babatunde Rukara, said this Thursday in Abuja as part of activities to mark 2018 Consumer Rights Day. Gabriel Kuma has the details.
Online markets, also known as e-commerce, is steadily gaining popularity in the market space. Though still emerging and account for just 10% of the total market, it has afforded Nigerians the opportunity to purchase goods online. This has, however, not been without dissatisfaction by consumers, who often lament gross shortchanged by operators in the market. For instance, some consumers complain of lack of trust, duration of delivery, and fraud from some internet scammers. Worried by these complaints, the Consumer Protection Council reached an understanding with senior managers of online marketers to, among other things, adopt certain fundamental guiding principles. The Director General, CPC, said the principles are considered vital to protection of consumers in the industry and a regulatory framework.
We believe that a dedicated customer service apparatus is indispensable to e-commerce, and it is required to ensure that a complaint resolution process which is not burdensome to the customers is in place. We also recognize as principle number 2 that online market platforms are the importance of full and frank complete disclosures of any terms, conditions, exceptions, or restrictions on the products that are marketed on the platforms. Online marketers also recognize the need to promote consumer confidence and eliminate distrust. Advertising products should be truthful, transparent, and factual, and it must include accurate information about the current and future availability of specifications, merchantable conditions, quality, and relevant warranty information.
Irukera said when fully operational, the sanctions will be enforced to eradicate issues of lack of trust and false advertisement of goods and services.
Typically, a sanction regime is usually very complex and very diverse. So it will be different tools. There will be penalties, there will be disgorgement, there will be all kinds of things. And so some of the type of sanctions that might even appear is regulatory intervention and regulatory supervision for a period of time. So yes, it's not that simple, but we'll come up with the appropriate sanctions regime that we all agree on as an industry.
These online marketer, while addressing questions from journalists, agreed that the segment needs guidelines and regulatory framework and promised to strictly adhere to them, while also improving the relationship with consumers.
We're actually working daily to actually improve our processes, and of course we know that the consumer is really important, and actually our desire is actually to provide a better option for consumers, a more convenient option for consumers.
The Naira appreciated further marginally by 2 kobo to 360.25 Naira per dollar in the investors and exporters I&E window of the foreign exchange market. Let's join Juliet Dengiwa for more on business news.
The Naira Wednesday appreciated further marginally by 2 kobo to 360.25 Naira per dollar in the investors exporters I&E window of the foreign exchange market. Data from the Financial Market Dealers Code (FMDQ) showed that the indicative exchange rate for the I&E, also known as Nigerian Autonomous Foreign Exchange (NAFEX), dropped further to 360.25 Naira per dollar. Yesterday from 360.28 Naira per dollar on Tuesday, indicating 2 kobo appreciation in the Naira. However, the volume of dollars traded in the window further declined by 60% to $128.06 million. Monday from $322.83 million on Tuesday. Meanwhile, Naira depreciated by 1 Naira to 363 per dollar. Yesterday from 362 per dollar recorded on Tuesday in the parallel markets. Nigeria today is recorded as the biggest economy in Africa. However, its power sector is performing far below the level of an economy of this magnitude. Over half of the population has no access to grid-connected electricity, and those who are connected to the grid suffer extensive power outages. Nigeria's current installed capacity is estimated at around 13,000 megawatts. Only half of this is operational, and only about 5,000 megawatts reaches the grid. Restricted output has been blamed on these supply problems, water shortages, grid constraints, and breakdowns. According to expert estimations, Nigeria is currently spending roughly $14 billion yearly on off-grid diesel generation. In view of such major energy deficit, the country shops for all available alternatives, including renewable energy options like wind and solar.
And for Business News Friday, our correspondent is standing by.
The Central Bank of Nigeria on Thursday denied engaging in discriminatory practices among electricity generation companies in the nation's power sector. The Apex Bank said that investors in the sector were being treated in line with the contractual agreement they signed with the federal government. The Assistant Director, Infrastructure Finance Office, CBN, Boma Benebo, made this known to journalists during a monitoring visit to the Azura Power West African Limited in Uhum-Wode local government area of Edo State. The reaction of the Apex Bank came days after Mainstream Energy Solution Limited, Transcorp Power Limited, Egbin Power PLC and North-South Power Company Limited sued the federal government for allegedly giving preferential treatment to Azura and Akugas Limited. The GENCOs also joined the two power companies, the CBN, Nigeria Bulk Electricity Trading PLC, and the Ministry of Power, Works and Housing as respondents. Lagos State, with a reputation of having the biggest economy in Nigeria, is also the highest debtor to foreign creditors among subnational governments in the country. Statistics obtained from the Debt Management Office have shown a document titled State and Federal Government External Debt Stock as at 31st December 2017 also showed Kaduna and Edo State made up the top 3 indebted states in the country, going by their external borrowings. With a foreign debt of $1.47 billion, Lagos is the only state with external debt of over $1 billion as a proportion of the total $4.12 billion owed by the state to external creditors is 35.68%. Kaduna State owes a total of $238.28 million, while Edo owes $232.2 million, or 5.78% of the country's subnational external debt, while Edo owed 5.63% of the subnational external loan commitment. Other top debtors among the states include Cross River with external debt of 167.92. Other top debtors among the states include Cross River with external debt of $167.92 million, Enugu $133.11 million, Bauchi $109.83 million, and Ogun $107.45 million. Some of the least indebted states of the Federation are Borno $22.59 million, Taraba $26.56 million, Yobe $29.56 million, Plateau $30.07 million, Kogi $33.03 million, Jigawa $33.5 million, Federal Capital Territory $33.72 million, Zamfara $34.83 million, and Benue $35.5 million. As of December 31st, 2017, Nigeria's foreign debt stood as of December 31st, 2017, Nigeria's foreign debt stood at $18.91 billion. Out of this amount, the federal government owes a total of $14.18 billion. This means that the federal government accounts for 78.27% of the country's external debt commitment, while the state government accounts for the balance.
And that has been the Business News Summary on Independent Television Abuja. Thanks for staying with us. I'm Nkiru Oguli. See you next time.